Bradley Morrison shoved Marie Stevens hard against locker number 217. Marble floors echoed the impact. Phones shot up around the hallway like a forest of recording devices. At Riverside High in Colorado, the board member's son writes every single rule. In 12 minutes, he would be eating those words. Her fall wasn't clumsy. It was combat clean, controlled, practiced. The impact should have left Marie rattled, embarrassed, searching for an escape route like any normal transfer student would. Instead, she gathered her scattered textbooks with fingers that remained perfectly steady despite 43 pairs of eyes watching her every move. Her phone case caught the overhead fluorescent light, revealing microscopic wear marks along the edges. These weren't scratches from typical teenage accidents or careless handling. They were precise abrasions that suggested something far more deliberate had been attached and removed multiple times. Marie positioned herself against the hallway wall, her back pressed firmly to the cold brick surface. But this wasn't the defensive posture of someone seeking protection. Her stance maintained a 30-degree viewing angle that covered both ends of the corridor, the main staircase, and the emergency exits. When she breathed, her chest rose and fell in a measured 4-count rhythm that didn't match someone who had just been publicly humiliated in front of half the junior class. Bradley stood surrounded by his usual circle of followers, expensive sneakers squeaking against the polished floor as he shifted his weight. His smirk was the kind that comes from 17 years of never facing real consequences. "Scholarship trash doesn't belong here," he announced, his voice carrying the casual cruelty of someone who had never been challenged. The words bounced off lockers that cost more than most families' annual car payments. "I hear you," Marie replied quietly. Her voice carried an odd certainty, a strange confidence that seemed completely disconnected from her situation. It was the tone of someone acknowledging information rather than accepting an insult. The morning sun streamed through Riverside High's tall windows, illuminating a hallway where privilege and poverty were never supposed to mix. This was Colorado's most exclusive public school district, where board positions were inherited like family heirlooms, and scholarship students were reminded daily that they existed here only through the generosity of others. Marie Stevens had transferred here just 2 weeks ago with perfect grades and no social connections, which made her an ideal target for Bradley's particular brand of entitled aggression. "Daddy's donation bought you that attitude," Bradley continued, his voice rising as more students stopped to watch the show. "But money won't protect you from reality checks." His friends laughed on cue, a chorus of nervous giggles from kids who understood that staying in Bradley's good graces meant participating in his cruelties. Marie's grip shifted slightly on her backpack strap, a movement so subtle that most observers wouldn't notice. But the adjustment freed her dominant hand while maintaining the appearance of a defensive, cornered student. "Colorado is a one-party consent state," she mentioned casually, as if commenting on the weather. Her eyes tracked to a specific point on the wall near the science wing, especially around camera blind spot number 7. Bradley's friend Jake stepped forward, his confusion evident. "What's the charity case talking about now?" he demanded. "Are you threatening us or something?" The hallway's fluorescent hum seemed to pause for exactly 1 beat. Students continued their morning routines, but something had shifted in the atmosphere. Marie's breathing remained perfectly controlled while she noted details that no normal teenager should care about. 43 students in immediate vicinity, 2 teachers maintaining peripheral supervision from the main office doorway, 1 security guard currently completing his rounds and due to change shifts in exactly 90 seconds. "Just observing," Marie replied. Her tone carried something that made Bradley's smirk falter for precisely 1 heartbeat. It was the voice of someone who had been trained to observe, to catalog, to remember details that would matter later in ways that high school bullies couldn't imagine. This story is about more than typical teenage drama. If you're curious about hidden strength and systematic justice unfolding in unexpected places, please hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories. The thanks button helps support our team's research into these fascinating cases. Now, let's see what happens when someone seriously underestimates the wrong target. By third period, Bradley's carefully orchestrated social media campaign was already in motion. Screenshots of Marie's class schedule appeared in the group chat with laughing emojis and location tags that would help his followers track her movements throughout the day. Someone had already created a meme using her school photo. Scholarship Barbie, now with real tears. The image spread through Riverside High's social networks with the viral velocity that only comes from concentrated cruelty. Marie sat in advanced placement chemistry, her left sleeve rolled with mathematical precision to reveal what appeared to be a thin scar running parallel to her forearm. Or perhaps it wasn't a scar at all, but rather a carefully positioned adhesive strip that served a purpose invisible to casual observers. She held her milk carton with her non-dominant hand, keeping her phone arm completely free while appearing to study her textbook with the focused attention of a dedicated student. The live stream started during lunch period, when the cafeteria was packed with potential viewers. Bradley held his phone high above the crowd, broadcasting to his 3,000 followers across Instagram and TikTok. Let's see how our newest charity case handles some real social education, he announced to his digital audience. Comments began flooding in immediately, a mix of cruel encouragement and shocked disbelief that someone would actually broadcast bullying in real time. Marie detected the camera angle before even looking up from her lunch tray. Her response wasn't panic, anger, or the tears that Bradley's audience was expecting. Instead, she continued eating with methodical precision, each bite timed and measured. She checked her analog watch, not for the time, which was clearly displayed on every phone screen in the room, but for something else entirely. The watch face reflected light in a way that suggested additional functionality beyond simple timekeeping. Marie's lunch routine revealed patterns that would have been invisible to anyone not specifically trained to notice them. She had positioned herself facing the kitchen's service entrance, tracking the rotation of cafeteria staff with the systematic attention of someone conducting surveillance rather than simply eating lunch. Her seemingly casual conversation with Mrs. Henderson, the head custodian, included specific questions about after-hours access protocols, building security procedures, and administrative schedules that went far beyond normal student curiosity. "Package confirmed" appeared on Marie's phone screen, a text message from an unlisted number that showed no caller identification. She read the message and deleted it within seconds, but not before noting that the timestamp matched exactly with the moment Bradley's father had entered the administrative building across the main courtyard. The coordination was too precise to be coincidental. During fourth period study hall, Marie's locker combination routine included movements that seemed designed to activate something beyond the standard 3-digit lock mechanism. Her fingers traced patterns along the doorframe, checking for tiny pieces of clear tape that would reveal whether anyone had attempted unauthorized access during her absence. The security measures were sophisticated for a high school student, suggesting experience with counter-surveillance techniques that most teenagers would never encounter. The county courthouse was exactly 12 minutes away by car, 14 minutes by bicycle, and 26 minutes on foot. Marie knew these distances because she had timed each route twice, during different traffic patterns and at various times of day. Her familiarity with legal geography wasn't typical for a transfer student who had allegedly arrived in Colorado just 2 weeks earlier with nothing more than academic transcripts and a scholarship letter. Marie discreetly activated what appeared to be a standard student smartphone, but was actually military-grade communication equipment capable of forensic-quality audio recording with blockchain timestamp authentication and data recovery features that federal law enforcement agencies use for building criminal cases that will withstand court scrutiny. The 3-minute warning bell echoed through Riverside High's corridors, signaling the end of lunch period and the beginning of afternoon classes. The confrontation escalated in the empty science wing, where Bradley had cornered Marie near the emergency exit while his friends blocked access to the main hallway. "Time for a real lesson about knowing your place," he snarled, reaching toward her shoulder with the confidence of someone who had never faced meaningful resistance to his bullying campaigns. Marie's response was swift and precisely calculated. She redirected his grip with a subtle wrist movement that used his own forward momentum to send him stumbling past her position. The technique was nearly invisible to casual observers, but unmistakably professional to anyone with training in defensive tactics. She hadn't pushed, struck, or escalated the violence. Instead, she had used physics and technique to neutralize his aggression while maintaining perfect legal justification for her actions. "Interesting choice of tactics," Marie observed, her voice maintaining the same calm tone she had used all morning. She automatically counted camera positions throughout the corridor. 3 different angles that would capture the entire incident, providing perfect documentation for any subsequent evidence review. Her awareness of surveillance positioning wasn't accidental. It was the systematic thinking of someone trained to build legal cases. Bradley recovered his balance, his face flushing with a combination of embarrassment and rage. "You think you're smart because you got lucky once? My dad owns this place. He decides who stays and who gets expelled for causing problems. Property ownership doesn't supersede federal jurisdiction," Marie replied calmly. She was already photographing the interaction from multiple angles, documenting the scene with precise timestamp notation that followed chain of custody protocols most high school students wouldn't recognize. Her evidence collection technique was textbook law enforcement procedure, designed to ensure that any documentation would be admissible in federal court proceedings. Marie's systematic approach to evidence gathering wasn't the random behavior of a paranoid teenager. Each photograph included background reference points, proper lighting conditions, and witness positioning that would meet the evidentiary standards required for federal prosecution. Her knowledge of Title IX procedures emerged during a seemingly casual conversation with the guidance counselor, revealing understanding of legal frameworks that went far beyond typical student orientation materials. The mystery deepened when Marie began cross-referencing Bradley's class schedule against custodial shift changes, administrative computer access times, and security patrol rotations. She knew exactly when surveillance gaps occurred and which staff members left their workstations unlocked during regular break periods. This wasn't typical high school social navigation. It was operational planning, conducted with the precision of someone trained in investigative procedures. Bradley's increasingly aggressive behavior provided Marie with perfect documentation opportunities. Every threat, every instance of intimidation, every attempt to use his family's influence was carefully recorded and catalogued. Marie's systematic approach to evidence gathering suggested professional training in law enforcement procedures that didn't match her official background as a recent transfer student from an undisclosed previous school. The anonymous messages began arriving that same afternoon, sent through encrypted messaging applications that most teenagers wouldn't know how to access. Transfer somewhere else while you still can. Last warning before things get serious. The threats were carefully worded to avoid explicit violence while making the intended intimidation unmistakably clear. But Marie's response revealed capabilities that Bradley hadn't anticipated. Her OSINT, open-source intelligence techniques, were remarkably sophisticated for someone who was supposedly just a scholarship student trying to fit in at a new school. She traced the area code of the burner phone used to send the messages to an electronics store located exactly 3 blocks from Bradley's family estate. She correlated message timestamps with Bradley's known locations throughout the day, analyzing metadata from leaked social media posts and cross-referencing financial transactions from the school's digital payment systems. During 6th period, Marie's phone buzzed with an incoming call from another unlisted number. She answered quietly with a single word. "Handler?" The conversation lasted exactly long enough for one response from the caller. "Clearance confirmed." Then the line went dead, leaving no trace of the communication in her phone's standard call log. The timing of that call wasn't coincidental. Across campus, an unusual scheduling change had appeared on Principal Hendricks's administrative calendar. Emergency board meeting moved from next Friday to tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. Someone with significant influence was accelerating their timeline, and Marie's investigation had apparently triggered responses at levels far above typical high school administration. 3 soft knocks echoed against Marie's locker door during the transition between 7th and 8th periods. Someone had attempted entry during the previous class change, leaving behind microscopic traces of aluminum powder residue that revealed fingerprint patterns under ultraviolet light examination. The break-in attempt was sophisticated enough to bypass the standard lock mechanism, but had left evidence that suggested the intruders weren't quite as professional as they believed themselves to be. Marie's counter-investigation revealed that Bradley's network of influence extended far beyond typical high school social circles. Financial records accessed through the school's public transparency portal showed unusual payment patterns flowing through student activity funds, suggesting money laundering operations that used teenage accounts as intermediaries for much larger financial transactions. The evidence was pointing toward federal crimes, interstate trafficking, racketeering, and conspiracy charges that would explain exactly why a trained operative might be placed undercover in what appeared to be a normal Colorado suburban high school. Marie's legal knowledge emerged through precise questioning during student council budget discussions. She demonstrated understanding of interstate commerce laws, federal versus state jurisdiction boundaries, and RICO Act provisions with the fluency of someone who had received professional briefings rather than casual internet research. Her tactical awareness extended far beyond typical teenage concerns. Encrypted communications, counter-surveillance techniques, and evidence preservation methods that suggested federal law enforcement training rather than the kind of tech savviness that comes from growing up with smartphones and social media. When Marie adjusted her collar to retrieve a pen from her shirt pocket, a partial tattoo became visible just above her shoulder blade. 2 small stars, barely visible under normal circumstances, were positioned exactly where federal agency personnel often place identification markers. The image was carefully hidden under regular clothing, but available for verification when necessary during official interactions. The school day ended with Marie walking calmly toward the student parking area, her evidence files secured in a backpack that showed signs of modification beyond standard student needs. Tomorrow's emergency board meeting would determine whether Bradley Morrison's protected status could survive federal scrutiny and whether his father's influence extended far enough to cover crimes that crossed state lines and involved federal trafficking statutes. But something in Marie's expression suggested that the real revelations were still ahead, and that Riverside High was about to discover that not every transfer student arrives with the simple goal of fitting in and graduating quietly. The emergency board meeting required Marie to activate her secondary communication array, specialized conference room surveillance equipment designed for high-stakes federal investigations, featuring real-time transcript generation and multi-jurisdictional evidence authentication that federal prosecutors rely on for complex criminal cases involving organized crime networks. Initial investigation had revealed that the corruption network extended far beyond Riverside High into 3 neighboring school districts, suggesting a systematic operation that would require federal intervention and multi-agency coordination to fully dismantle. Colorado's proximity to major drug trafficking routes made the state particularly vulnerable to organizations seeking to exploit educational institutions' financial systems for money laundering purposes that could process millions of dollars annually. The boardroom filled with nervous energy as members arrived for the 7:30 a.m. meeting. Principal Hendricks shuffled through papers with trembling hands, while Superintendent Davis kept checking his phone for messages that weren't coming. Board member Morrison sat at the head of the table, his usual confident demeanor replaced by barely concealed anxiety that everyone could see but nobody dared acknowledge directly. Before we reveal Marie's true identity and the shocking federal crimes she's been investigating, what would you do if you discovered your own school was being used as cover for serious criminal activity? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because this story is about to take an incredible turn. Marie entered the boardroom with the quiet confidence of someone who had been preparing for this moment for months. When she pulled back her sleeve to check her watch, a distinctive scar became clearly visible across her forearm, a thin line that matched injuries sustained during federal training exercises at Quantico. The mark was unmistakable to anyone familiar with law enforcement academy protocols. "My name is Marie Stevens," she announced, her voice carrying an authority that silenced the room completely. "Junior Agent, Drug Enforcement Administration, Task Force Bravo. My mission has been to document the drug trafficking network using this school district as a financial laundering operation for interstate narcotics distribution." The boardroom fell into absolute silence. Board member Morrison's face drained of all color as the implications of her words settled over the assembled officials. His hands began to shake visibly as he realized that months of careful planning and protected criminal activity were about to collapse around him. "My father was DEA Agent Michael Stevens," Marie continued, her voice steady despite the emotional weight of her revelation. "He died investigating this same trafficking network 18 months ago in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm here to finish the investigation he started and bring his killers to justice." Marie's transformation was complete and undeniable. The quiet, vulnerable transfer student disappeared entirely, replaced by a federal operative with the training, authority, and evidence necessary to end Bradley's protected status permanently and expose the criminal conspiracy that had been operating under the cover of educational administration. Bradley's desperation peaked as he watched his carefully protected world crumble in real time. The realization that his months of bullying had been directed at a federal agent conducting an active criminal investigation sent him into a panic that overrode any remaining rational thinking. He lunged toward Marie, attempting to grab the evidence files from her hands in a desperate effort to destroy the documentation that would end his family's criminal enterprise. His attack was captured simultaneously by 3 different camera angles positioned throughout the conference room as Marie smoothly sidestepped his clumsy assault, using his own forward momentum to send him stumbling directly into the conference table. The collision was loud enough to draw immediate attention from everyone in the room, providing perfect witness testimony to Bradley's aggressive behavior. Federal assault charges against a law enforcement officer carry mandatory minimum sentences, Marie stated calmly, maintaining perfect documentation of the incident through multiple recording devices. Her de-escalation technique was textbook federal procedure: create safe distance, maintain evidence integrity, avoid using unnecessary force that could complicate prosecution. Morrison's political instincts kicked in as he realized the gravity of the situation unfolding before him. Years of manipulating local politics had taught him to recognize when damage control was necessary, and this moment required immediate action to salvage what remained of his family's future. He understood that cooperating with federal agents might be his only chance to avoid the harshest possible sentences. "Bradley!" Morrison commanded sharply, his voice cutting through the chaos of the moment. "Stop this nonsense immediately and apologize to Agent Stevens." The room fell silent as everyone processed the shocking transformation. The powerful board member who had protected his son's bullying for months was now publicly acknowledging Marie's federal authority and demanding his son's complete submission. "Dad, what are you doing?" Bradley stammered, his face flushing with humiliation as he realized his father was abandoning him in front of witnesses. "Get on your knees and apologize properly," Morrison ordered, his voice carrying the desperate authority of someone trying to demonstrate cooperation with federal law enforcement. "You have attacked a federal agent conducting an official investigation." Bradley's legs gave way as the full weight of his situation crashed down around him. He dropped to his knees in front of Marie, his voice breaking as he spoke. "I'm sorry, Agent Stevens. I didn't know. I'm really sorry for everything I did to you." Marie looked down at the kneeling teenager with professional detachment. "Your apology is noted for the record," she replied. "But federal crimes require federal consequences." The systemic abuse of authority reached its breaking point when Morrison's desperate attempts at damage control proved futile. Federal agents entered the building simultaneously through multiple entrances, their coordinated movement suggesting months of operational planning. Marie's evidence package, hundreds of hours of audio recordings, detailed financial transaction logs, thousands of photographs with forensic quality documentation, and comprehensive metadata analysis had triggered coordinated arrests across 4 Colorado counties. Morrison's frantic phone calls to state-level political contacts were being recorded in real time, providing prosecutors with evidence of attempted obstruction of justice and conspiracy to interfere with federal law enforcement operations. His attempts to force Bradley's apology had come too late to influence the federal charges that were already being processed. The DEA task force moved with military precision, simultaneous property seizures, comprehensive asset freezes, and federal warrants that would completely dismantle the entire trafficking network within the next 72 hours across 3 southwestern states. Bradley remained on his knees as he watched federal agents place his father in handcuffs and read him his constitutional rights. "This isn't real," he kept repeating, his voice breaking with each word. "The apology was supposed to fix this. Dad said it would fix everything." Morrison's political influence evaporated when federal racketeering charges were filed. The network's collapse triggered arrests across 3 states as investigators discovered $13 million laundered through school programs over 4 years. Marie's 18-month investigation exposed corruption from street dealers to state education officials who protected the operation. Bradley received federal conspiracy charges with 15-year minimum sentences. His father faced 47 counts, including racketeering and trafficking. Both were denied bail. The investigation revealed connections to Arizona and New Mexico networks. As Marie packed her files, a black SUV waited outside. Her handler's folder read, "Phoenix Operation." "Sometimes victory is just the beginning of war," Marie said quietly. Her device showed, "Target acquired. Welcome to Arizona." Marie had succeeded at Riverside High, but her most dangerous challenge awaited where her father died.
The story ends here, but there are many more videos waiting for you. So, if you enjoy, please take a moment to like, subscribe to the Wrong Target Story channel, and don't forget to turn on the bell. See you in the next story.